Good old Smilo Ren swinging his D+ all over our screens. This is Disney Star Wars, folks. The power of one, the power of two, the power of Groom. What in the hell is this? I mean, seriously. It's a cluster of epic proportions, but this is starting to give cluster a bad name. At least a cluster of implies a cluster, so there's some organization to it. This thing is all over the place, so as a tribute to Leslye and her masterful storytelling, my review will likely do the same. To start, we have a Poozo slinging Sith, because why not at this point? Is it a tribute to Leslie's old boss Harvey, opening his office door, butt-ass naked, hand on his hips as he was purported to do? Possibly. They make beautiful women look dumpy as hell, but have to squeeze in as much man flesh as possible.
What is it? What do you smell? Man flesh.
Fine, whatever. That's the least of this show's problems. This entire show is a train wreck, so why should I be surprised that nothing makes sense, in story or out? There really is no story, just random scenes strung together. May can't make up her mind, ever. She hates the Jedi, kills the Jedi, then wants to turn herself in, then wants to kill them again, and turn herself in, then kill them. Is she supposed to be schizophrenic, schizoaffective, have multiple or borderline personality disorder? Nobody knows, and this includes the writers. This is what you get when you have writers who think they are clever but aren't. Dunning-Kruger the series. If you don't know what Dunning-Kruger is, basically, you're so stupid that you lack the cognitive ability to understand that you're the stupid one. Perfect way to sum up Star Wars these days. The sets look like absolute shit. Seriously, this is the quality I'd expect if I'd go to Galaxy's Edge, and this isn't the laborer's fault. These sets actually look great, but they look like sets in the making of videos. You can tell they are foam, plastic, and plaster. It's not the builder's faults. Nothing was done in post-production to mute or age the sets, give them a wash or filter to make them look real. This looks like a soap opera set, bad CW set, or an SNL skit set. Speaking of SNL, what in the hell is this? I mean, seriously, if I showed this to you in a vacuum, you'd swear one of the Lonely Island Boys was hosting SNL and playing a Jedi. $180 million? Where in the hell is the money going? Other than to producers, Funko Pop-headed showrunners, and tax write-offs. This episode cost more than Godzilla -1. How embarrassing.
How embarrassing. How embarrassing.
Other than the few actors I mentioned in my last video, the cast in this show is the acting quality of a local theater group in a small Midwest town. Leslye Headland's wife is one of the worst actors I've ever seen. Like Amanda Stenberg, she has one facial expression, stone-faced deer in headlights. The level of her acting is basically what I'd expect from a personal assistant if she was asked to fill in for a sick actress at a table read. This is so embarrassing, even by Disney Star Wars standards. A lightsaber whip? Like, are you serious? Freud would have an absolute field day with this episode. You've got Smilo with his Poozo hanging out and Osha gripping his saber. Then you have some noodly flaccid saber whip that looks as ridiculous as it sounds. Hey, you remember when Vader had his helmet lowered onto him in Revenge of the Sith? Well, here's a shit version of it. At least it's confirmed as cortosis, but we have Smilo Ren working on it with what appears to be some electric or plasma welder, which should not be working when interacting with the cortosis. So we've not got an in-universe explanation, and it clearly doesn't fit the Legends description of it, so it just shows the level of detail, which is none. As with everything else, nothing is earned.
It didn't require any discipline to attain it. You know, you read what others had done, and you took the next step. You didn't earn the knowledge for yourselves, so you don't take any responsibility.
A bunch of Jedi were massacred, yet I don't even care. Osha has zero agency. She just goes wherever the plot needs her to be, blank-faced and useless. May is a psychopath that's about as stable as Snoke's dreadnought after a sweet-ass Holdo maneuver. The worst part is, fans have House of the Dragon to compare it to. House of the Dragon is an hour that feels like 15 minutes, because I'm on the edge of my seat, even though I've read the books. I'm invested, I don't want the episode to end, and when it does, the next episode on the following Sunday feels like a month away. I know what's going to happen to the characters for the most part. Still, I'm anxious and engrossed in every episode. This week's episode of House of the Dragon was easily the slowest pace of the season, yet still somehow felt faster than the slogfest that is the Acolyte. The Acolyte is 30-ish minutes that feels like an eternity. Seriously, what happened in this episode? You can tell this isn't written for episodic TV, because the endpoints mostly all feel arbitrary. It's just a bunch of J.J. Abrams mystery box chasing with zero answers. Every time Sol was going to exposition dump all over us, a ship alarm went off, or systems came back online, or whatever. This is supposedly Leslye Headland's most important piece of art. Why do you care, the sycophants and shills will say? Well, because even in a fantasy world, there has to be some consistency, some logic, and universal rules.
Smokey, this is not Nam, this is bowling. There are rules.
Hey, Walter, come on, it's just... Hey.
Isn't that what that marshmallow-shaped twit named Pablo Hidalgo was hired for? Or does he just get paid to walk around with this stupid little mug of cocoa and do those cringe, "Oh, what a surprise to see you" style interviews on StarWars.com? When he's not insulting the fans, of course. I can really give two shits about Katie Amundi's age change, like, whatever. I'm talking about simple things, like last week's episode. Nobody could even keep track of who was where in the forest battle scene. You had people basically off-screen teleporting, coming from different directions than they were previously. Do they have no reference point? Is anyone tracking who is where in the scene? Or do they just suck at editing? This show is screwed on every level, and that's the thing. Everything is so bad that you can't even properly analyze it. Next to nothing makes sense. It's just exposition dumps being vomited all over the place, and characters acting with next to zero consistency. We can't tell if anyone is acting in or out of character because there's no characters. Look at this scene. All we need is John Williams' binary sunset playing and Mark's acting, and we know Luke feels trapped and longs for adventure. In Acolyte, we get a 2-minute exposition dump and still have no clue about the scene or the character. For instance, Sol can read minds, but he can't tell Osha and May switch places? He can't smell burnt hair? Or was he just playing the long game with May? Or did Basil tell him? Based off what we were given, it would appear Basil did, but it's edited so terribly we don't know for sure. And if it was Basil, how the hell did Sol not know? The writing is so inept, it's making all the characters inept. Through lines, character arcs, plot devices, plot points, actual plot. Who needs them? This is Star Wars now. Zero shits given from creators or fans. Pure apathy. Wandering stories with meandering plots, thrown together characters, and some space stuff and Sith Poozos. What a time to be a Star Wars fan. Every Tuesday, I press play on my TV and think,
what have I done?
Now I know how Ace Ventura felt.
I'm in Psychoville and Finkel's the mayor.
But Leslye Headland is the mayor. Thankfully, there's only one more hour left in Psychoville. Unfortunately, it will feel like a millennia. Remember when that was how long the Sith had been extinct?
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
Leslye doesn't, but...
Pepperidge Farm remembers. But Pepperidge Farm ain't just going to keep it to Pepperidge Farm self free of charge. Maybe you go out and buy yourself some of these distinctive Milano cookies. Maybe this whole thing just disappears.
If you made it this long, bravo. I could barely make it through recording it without losing about 20 IQ points, thanks to Leslie's genius writing. But if you have made it this long, do me a favor, check out my guy Popcorn Cobra. The algorithm has been wreaking Acolyte-level havoc on his channel. Give him a look, give him a sub. He's got great live takes without a bunch of edits, and he's easily one of the fairest and more positive-leaning YouTubers out there. And until next week, may the farce be with you.